Good afternoon. So let me get a sense of the room. How many of you in this room are teachers? Youth workers outside of school? Superintendents? Other? Good deal. So that helps me a lot though, because this is structured just the right way. Because what the mayor said is critically important. I want to start by positing something that may sound like heresy, which is social emotional learning is probably the only domain that children will learn whether we do our jobs or not. They will learn something. The question is what? The question of how you interact with people, what you believe about where you belong, how you identify, how you respond to conflict, how you respond to adversity. Whether you teach them or not, young people will learn these things. And so the question is, what are we going to do to create the context for them to learn the most healthy and positive responses to fulfill the best of their potential in those domains that we can? And what are each of our responsibilities in that context? We just had the opportunity to get a preview of some of the work that's going to show up in the survey. One of the things that will not be a surprise in the survey is that lots of people think that social emotional learning is important. This room is a group of the choir, obviously. Lots of people think that it's other people's job, too, to teach social emotional learning. The good news is that's exactly right. There is the opportunity for us to influence young people in every waking moment of the day. From the time they wake up with their parents and the conversations they have about what's coming, to the moment they arrive at school and that face that they encounter when they walk in the door helps them to shift their mindset, maybe in terms of something they encountered along the way. The program that they go to after school helps them to stretch muscles that they haven't had work during the day, reinforces their skills around collaboratively working with their colleagues, with their friends, with the people they don't get along with, teaches them that they can do things that they didn't imagine they could do, gives them responsibilities that no one thought children could have. These are the things that we can do to create a context for social emotional learning that is very different than the one most of our children experience today, especially our children that are living in poverty. And so if we say that we want our children to fully develop, we know that it's about mindset and about effort and about the choices that they make. But it's also about cultural context. It's also about social context. And it's also about access, most of which is out of their control. So for us, the question is, what are we willing to do to create the kinds of environments that support our children to achieve their fullest potential? To be able to get to that next level, to do the kinds of things that, frankly, even in our best days, when we say we believe the most, would still surprise us. So, I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about some of the things that are important for us to get that right. And in particular, I want to focus on K-12 inside the school building, recognizing that everything that the mayor said about all of the opportunity outside the school building is there and probably at least as high leverage as what will happen during the day. The first thing I want to talk about is the unique opportunity we have at this particular moment in time. And the unique opportunity we have at this particular moment in time is that everyone is starting to talk about it. But what is it? Different definitions of what's included in social emotional learning, different ways of talking about it, different strategies, some of which work, some of which, who knows, and not a lot of research or evaluation work going on to support either. Lots of people making claims about what they've done, lots of people doing things that they say are about rigorous instruction, that are all about SEL, and they don't even know. Like, this is the context in which we are doing our work, And it is the opportunity that we have to actually bring shape to things that are already underway, to come up with common definitions, to talk about how you actually measure what we believe is important, how you get agreement between institution types, within school and out of school and among parents, about what these critical competencies are. And then build a research agenda that lets us get as good at this as we are about the best things that we ever do. Second, lots of people throw up their hands about social emotional learning. For a whole variety of reasons, they think it's hard to work it in. It's hard to squeeze it into the school day. I like to posit it doesn't have to be squeezed in. It is the school day. Every classroom, every interaction, every challenge, every failure, every success creates a learning opportunity specifically around social emotional learning. It is the one thing that is universally cross-curricular. Every subject, every teacher, coach, counselor can play, needs to play. Yet, my guess is these conversations aren't happening in that kind of coherent way in most school communities, districts, dare I say state, preparatory institutions. Creating that kind of coherence, that kind of weaving of program and practice across everything that we do so that it supports the kinds of outcomes that we're shooting for is something that we have never done well, frankly, on almost any topic, but it is most critical here because of the third thing. We can do lots of things to improve social emotional learning. There are programs that have a really strong evidence base. There are practices in terms of how you engage with students. But at a certain level, when it comes down to it, the context, if you call the systems the bricks, the culture is the mortar. How you create a cultural context where the kinds of competencies, the kinds of beliefs and attitudes and behaviors and skills we want students to demonstrate become the norm inside of school and outside of school requires not only thinking about the technical, but with a small s, the spiritual. How students see themselves in connection with the people around them. And how they think about how they care about them and who cares about them. It is in that context and not being afraid to have those conversations that then you implement the technical things and you do the research to figure out how you tell whether or not it's working. Now, this may seem like an odd thing for a person from the feds to be talking about. I must have lost you because you didn't even laugh at that. But the reality is that as I watch this work play out across the country, what I see are schools struggling mostly because they want to skip the step. They want to skip the step to, I really want to focus on instruction. We have to focus on instruction, and it is essential. It is necessary, but it is not sufficient. I also see schools struggling because they love this stuff. They love the social emotional learning. They love their kids. They make them feel loved every single day. And yet, they don't use the relationships that they build with their children to attack rigorous work. They literally love their children to death. Necessary, but not sufficient. It is not either or, it is and both. So the question as administrators, as policymakers, as people who work inside and outside the school is how do we create the context to drive all of our work in the right directions to help our young people develop all of these competencies? And how do we support it, because we don't know enough yet about how to get it done, so that over time, every one of our systems points in the right direction. Every one of our professionals, whether in school or out of school, or lay people, including parents, know their role, know how to play it, have access to tools and resources. This is how we will make progress. This is how we will deliver on the promise, not just of academics, but of young people capable of fulfilling not only their dreams, but ours. So I hope that fits in with what you were going to talk about. I want to thank the mayor and, frankly, the mayors and the National League of Cities for carrying these kind of conversations across the country. I want to thank you for taking the time to be here today. The reality is that what we're doing today is starting a conversation and a journey. We're at a very nascent phase of this work where it's really messy because everybody's working with different words and saying different things and meaning saying the same words and meaning different things. No problem. Your commitment to pushing through, your social emotional strength is what's going to matter. It's a tough problem. I know we can solve it. Thank you very much.